All right. Hey guys, this is Cody Robinson with HomeFit Consulting. We just wanted to start trying to do these HomeFit Hangouts just to give you some more, just a lot of education and information on just different, health and fitness tips and what a lot of people have as far as any kind of questions or whatnot. So what we're going to do, so Trey Tate, one of our leading trainers here at HomeFit, is actually going to be presenting on low back pain, sitting, and squatting. And basically, I'll let him do a little introduction of himself, and then he'll move through the presentation. And then if we have any questions and answers, it's going to be kind of an open floor at the end. So, all right, go ahead, Trey.
Hey guys. Like Cody said, I'm Trey Tate. I have a Bachelor's of Science in Health Education from the University of Florida, and I'm a National Academy of Sports Medicine certified personal trainer. If you are interested in learning a little bit more about what I present here today, you can go to my personal blog at personaltrey, TREYNER.com, and there's a more in-depth discussion with some of the topics discussed today. And of course, visit homefitconsulting.com. Check out everything that we have there and all our excellent health coaches and personal trainers there. So today we'll be discussing low back pain, sitting, and squatting. So I have a little slideshow prepared, so I'll bring that up.
Okay.
Okay. So is that showing up right now?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So yeah, you can see the information here. You can also find me on Twitter at Personal Trainer. So on with the show. So just some back pain facts. 80% of all Americans will experience back pain at some point in their life, myself included. That's kind of why I decided to learn so much about this, because at the tender age of 19, I threw my own back out from just lifting heavy weights, not stretching, not foam rolling, just not really taking care of my body. And the most ironic part of all this, besides non-contact injuries, is we kind of do this to ourselves with our choices and our habits in our lives, just through our lifestyle choices. So through repetitive bending and lifting with improper technique and core bracing, repetitive sitting and inactivity, which is really going to be the focus of the discussion today, and repetitive poor posture through either sitting on a wallet if you're a guy, and if you are, I highly recommend not sitting on your wallet. It puts you in a very awkward angle for your pelvis. Possibly put it in a different pocket, or they make a lot of new cell phones now that have wallets built into them. High heels, slouching, and we're going to be discussing a lot of pelvic tilt today, specifically anterior pelvic tilt. So why is sitting so bad for humans? Well, our bodies were just never made to sit for extended periods of time. They didn't have chairs hundreds of thousands of years ago. So when we sit for long periods of time, it'll cause short and tonic hip flexors, which is basically the muscle group that helps bring your knee closer to your chest. And the opposite muscle group of your hip flexors are your glute muscles, your butt muscles. So your hip flexors become short, overactive, and tonic, and it causes your gluteal muscles become inactive and long. Along with this, you'll also get long and inactive deep abdominal muscles that help to stabilize our body and keep our pelvis in a proper position when we're standing. So with all this, you get a decreased hip extension and, like I said, glute activation. And because of this, you have an increased risk of hamstring and lower back injury. So if sitting's so bad, how should we naturally rest? Well, you should squat. You can see down here, here's a toddler in a natural squatting position. And you can see that this older gentleman here is also in a squatting position. So it's something that all humans are naturally able to do. It's just through inactivity that we lose this natural, proper functional ability. So if you can squat, that means you have proper movement, all your muscle lengths are correct, you have correct flexion at the hips, knees, and ankles. And in most third world countries, this is how people sit, just because they don't have access to chairs. And it's also the natural way to defecate. So just a fun fact, if you have any IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, or anything related to going to the bathroom, you might want to look into this natural squat position because it aligns your colon, allows the muscles to properly work that are related to that, and also the pressure from the knees on the abdominal area also help with relieving yourself. So those are some fun facts about the squat. So with all this sitting, like I mentioned before, it'll cause tight hip flexors in the front of your body. And this causes an anterior pelvic tilt. It basically dumps your pelvis forward. And it's also known as Donald Duck syndrome. So you kind of see people with their butt sticking out and their stomach sticking out. They have this anterior pelvic tilt. So if we look at this picture, this figure here on the left, the iliopsoas right here in the front is a deep abdominal hip flexor. It actually connects at the top of our femur, goes right by the pelvis, and actually connects to the very back of our vertebrae. So this is actually one of the main reasons why people feel a lot of lower back tension, because this muscle group actually gets short and it's actually pulling on that vertebrae. And along with that, you also have the rectus femoris, which is one of your quad muscles, one of the four. That's why it's called a quad. And this is also another hip flexor that gets short and starts pulling the pelvis forward. Along with this, our rectus spinae in the back, which helps keep us upright when we're in a standing posture, becomes inactive and long. And through this model, we can kind of see how everything starts dumping forward. So this is going to be kind of the main focus of our talk today, on the hip flexors on the front. But if we look here at the model, on the right, you can see there's a lot of different muscle groups that connect to our pelvis. And any imbalance with any of these muscle groups can start tugging the pelvis in a very unnatural way. And at the very end of this talk, I'll go into more depth about that. So how do we fix this dysfunction? Well, the first thing that you want to do is you want to inhibit the overactive muscle. So we're going to do this by doing self-myofascial release. And that's just simply massaging yourself with the use of a foam roller or some other type of device. And in the next slide, I'll talk more about that. So when we self-myofascial release, it decreases the muscle activity. It breaks down adhesions and the knots in that muscle, and it aligns the muscle fibers. So when you get a muscle knot, it's basically all these muscle fibers are bundled up together. They're not in the proper alignment, and you can kind of think of it, I kind of like to think of it as like if you left meat out rotting, because that knot isn't getting fresh blood supply to it, so it's not getting fresh nutrients to it, and all the toxic waste products of all the metabolic processes going on there kind of get trapped. So that's another reason why it's good to do self-myofascial release. So once we do that, we get the knots out. We want to stretch the muscle. By doing that, you develop proper muscle lengths. And then from that foundation, then you start to activate and strengthen the proper muscles through exercise. So in this case, we'll be activating our glute muscles because they fall asleep from the sitting position. If you're sitting down right now and you kind of poke at your glute muscles, you'll kind of notice that they're very relaxed. They're not tight at all. So once we activate and strengthen the proper muscles, we'll integrate muscle groups together through a dynamic movement. And you'll see how that works out in just a little bit. So I talked about self-myofascial release. Here are some of the tools right here. These are just regular old foam rollers right here. They're okay. I wouldn't recommend them long term. They kind of start to lose their shape. I kind of like these trigger point ones right here. They keep their shape for a lot longer. Right down here you have a rumble roller, so if you have a really hard knot to get out, you can get a little bit more pressure with these little nodules. And then we have something called the stick. A lot of runners like to use this because you can massage the muscle while standing up. So like I had mentioned, the focus today is really on the hip flexors. The iliopsoas muscle group is kind of hard to hit through foam rolling because it is located within our stomach area. So I mean, you would kind of be squishing some organs, which I wouldn't necessarily recommend. So you can see this lady, she's got the foam roller. She's starting at her hip area, and then she's going to move it all the way down to the knee. So I'm actually going to bring it to a live shot and demonstrate so you can see the proper way to foam roll the rectus femoris. So, okay, there I am. Okay. Can everybody hear me? Okay. Okay. So here's the foam roller. I also have the rumble roller, but it's a little too painful for me for this muscle group area, so I'm going to show you with this. So what you want to do, you just put it right on the ground, put it right up to the beginning of your hip, right here. And what you kind of want to do is slowly move up and down the muscle group until you find a nice tender spot. Whenever you find a tender spot, that's where a knot or adhesion is, and you kind of want to sit there for at least 20 seconds. So what I'm going to do is start foam rolling up. What I kind of like to do before I do the where I rest for 20 or 30 seconds on that, I kind of just try to go up and down the muscle group. I kind of like to think of it as like this is my sweetest massage, and then once I want to get into that deep tissue massage, kind of find that knot right there. So right now I'm on a knot. I'm just going to try to do deep conscious breathing, nice relaxed breath in, nice relaxing breath out. Try to really relax that muscle, and eventually it'll just kind of relax. So I'm just kind of doing it. Okay, so I did that. Now I kind of notice you kind of feel it at the insertion points. So right here in this case, right around the hip, or also right around the knee, and right in the belly of the muscle, you'll also feel it. So just do that, and I'll show you on the other side so you can kind of see what that looks like. You'll start at the hip area, slowly move all the way up to the knee area. Okay? So that's a quick introduction to foam rolling the rectus femoris. So I will go back to myself. Okay. So now that we self-myofascial release and we inhibited the angry muscle, in this case our rectus femoris, we want to do a kneeling hip flexor stretch. So we inhibited it, the muscle, and now we're going to stretch the muscle. So there's several different ways that you can do the hip flexor stretch. Right here is the most basic, right on the floor. And then this is kind of a little bit more advanced. And I'll show you several different ways that you can do this. So I'm going to cut that to myself. Okay, there we go. So you kind of want to have a soft ground to kind of protect your shin and your knee. Okay, so I'm going to bring it down just a little bit so you can see. So you want to get in this kneeling position, front leg about 90 degrees. And the really important thing here is you kind of want to tuck your pelvis under. So this part of my body, I'm driving forward. And you'll know when you hit it because this area will get very tight on your body and your butt will start to fire. It will be very tight. And that's what we want. So I'm driving my pelvis forward this way. My butt's activated. I'm feeling a lot of tension right here in this area. And then from here, what you want to do, raise the arm up on the same side as the back leg. You'll feel even more tension because we're really opening this part of our body. Then to add even more tension, start swaying away from the back leg. So back a little bit, You'll feel even more tension in this area. Keep driving this part of your pelvis forward. And then twist a little bit back that way. So I'm feeling a lot of tension right now. This is not pleasurable, but it's something that we need to do to really open this up from sitting, because it gets real short. And then this is specifically my bad side right now, so it's extremely tight. Okay, so that's the kneeling hip flexor stretch. That's probably where you want to start out. From there, you can progress to a little bit more torture, where in the slide before, the gentleman had his leg up on a bench. Well, I don't have a bench right now, but I do have a wall. So what I'll do, show you on this side, is you back your leg up all the way to the wall, so it's nice and vertical. From here, stand up, and then the wall is assisting because it's shortening all this up, and I don't have to hold this. So from here, start driving the pelvis forward. Drive it forward. You'll feel a lot of tension. You'll know you're doing it right because the butt will start firing. Okay, and the same thing from here. Raise the arm up. Tilt away from the back leg. You'll feel even more tension. Tilt back a little bit. Feel more tension. And then start twisting back towards that leg again. You'll feel a lot of tension. So you normally want to hold this for really as long as you possibly comfortably can. Sometimes I set a timer for 2 minutes just so that I know that I can do it. It's not pleasurable, but it's something that our body needs to do. This is kind of like how you maintain a car. You got to maintain your body because we're spending hundreds and hundreds of hours in a sitting position, whether we're driving to work, or we're sitting at a computer at our desk, or just watching TV. We're always in this sitting position, so we need to try to spend as much time as we can undoing all that damage that we're doing. So those are 2 simple ones, and then there's another one that you can do you can do while standing. And then that one, you take a nice wide stride. My heel is not on the ground, but I'm pushing through my toes back here. The same thing here. I'm going to tuck my pelvis under, drive it that way. You'll feel tightness here. Put the arm up, and same thing. Sway away. Tilt back a little bit while driving this pelvis forward, and then sway back. So I'm doing this right now while in a standing position. Okay. So you guys really have no excuse not to be doing this when I just showed you 3 different ways to do it. Okay, so let me go back to, okay. So now that we inhibited the muscle by, I'll show you right here. So we inhibit the muscle by doing self-myofascial release. We just stretch the muscle so it's the proper length. Now we can start activating the antagonist muscle to the agonist hip flexor. So in this case, it's going to be our butt and our upper hamstrings and our deep abdominal muscles. So we're going to do that through the back bridge. So I'm going to cut back to myself and show you what's going on. Okay. So it looks simple enough. There's just a few key points that I want to address. So you want to make sure everything's lined up with your hips, your knees, and your toes are pointing straight ahead. So when you lay back here, you'll kind of feel there's a natural lumbar curve, and there should be right here. You kind of put your hand in that space. But for this exercise, we want to get rid of that lumbar. We're going to tuck the pelvis under, and as soon as you do that, there's no more lumbar support. My abs are on, and then from this position, then start raising up the hips. Okay? So right now, my body's actually kind of shaking. So my glutes are firing. I'm thinking about firing my upper hamstrings, and then my abs are turned on too. There's no point. This isn't working out what we need to do. Okay, so that's why at the beginning of the exercise I tell you make sure you get rid of that lumbar curve. Okay, so lumbar curve's gone. My abs are turned on. Then I start lifting up, pushing off my feet. My butt's turned on. My upper hamstrings are turned on. My abs are turned on. Everything's in a nice line. So you probably want to do this I would do 10 to 15 reps, holding each one for about 5 seconds, then releasing, and try to do that for about 3 sets. Okay? All right. So, okay. So we self-myofascial released. We stretched the angry muscle, and we activated the opposite muscle of the angry muscle. So now we want to integrate everything into one motion, and in this case the squat. Because like I said, if you can squat, then everything's functional. So right here, ball squats are great, and I'll demonstrate that as well. The same with goblet squats are great. And really my favorite to kind of get everything working is the pole squat. Unfortunately, I don't have a pole or anything that I can grab onto. You can do a door frame. I like to go outside and grab a fence or a light post. The whole point is just basically to keep your torso in this nice upright position. Okay, so I'll cut back to myself and show you the ball squats. Okay. So I highly recommend getting a Swiss ball. You can do a lot with them. I mean, even the bridges that I was showing you, once you get past that stage, you can actually use this. And it adds a little bit more stability going on because the ball is constantly moving. The same thing with this, I get rid of that lumbar curve, lift it up, and then you can do the same thing from here once you progress from those other hip bridges. Anyway, for the ball squat, what you want to do, put the ball against the wall, get it down here in this lumbar curve, put your feet a little bit out, take a breath in, and then as you exhale, drop down. So I'm going to take a breath in, exhale, slowly go down. Okay. So a lot of people, there's a big discussion about should you go past parallel. Well, if you're a healthy functioning human, yes, you should be able to go down there. But, you might, for, decades of your life, you've never done this. So you might not be able to go down there safely. So what I would do, first try the 90-degree part out. If everything feels good from there, your knees feel good, there's no pain, then try dropping down a little bit further. So, like I said, take a breath in, exhale. Do this nice and slow. You really want to try to activate all the proper muscles while we do this. So once you can get down here, I kind of like to just hang down here, just kind of let everything stretch. It's actually pretty comfortable. I mean, like I said, this is supposed to be a natural resting position, and you can think of the ball as kind of your training wheels while you do this. Because a lot of times, if you don't have the proper, what's the word I'm looking for? Proper flexibility, a lot of times when you try to do a squat, you'll actually fall backwards. So this fall is keeping your torso upright so that the rest of your body can learn the proper motion and mechanics. So I'll just show that one more time. My feet are slightly out in front of me. Breath in, and then breath out, and do it nice and slow. Keep that torso nice and upright. And down here, I like to hang out. But if you're doing this for an exercise, just kind of do this nice and slow. So 4 seconds down, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold for maybe a second or two. And come back 1, 2, 3, 4. So I would do anywhere from about 12 to 15 of those, and then repeat for 3 sets. So I just showed you the ball squat. Once you do that, you can progress to a goblet squat. So I'm going to use a kettlebell, but you can also use a dumbbell, like how the gentleman was using it in the slide. So for that, and like I mentioned, you're using the ball because if you don't have the proper flexibility, you'll fall backwards. So that's where this weight's kind of nice because it counterbalances you want to fall back, so it's pulling you forward. So simply for this, hold the kettlebell, have your shoulders nice and relaxed. Take a breath in, and then exhale. Slowly drop down. Okay? And when I'm down in this position, I mean, we can turn this into an exercise where you're going up and down. But I like to get down in this position, hold it, and use my knees or use my elbows to kind of pry my knees apart and really work on my adductors because those get really tight as well. And I'm also engaging my core right now. You can see I have good ankle flexibility, good knee flexibility, and good hip flexibility. So from up, and I'll show you from the side as well. So you hold the kettlebell, take a breath in, exhale, and come back. Try to keep the torso nice and upright. And come back. Okay. And I'll show you the full exercise by pulling onto my doorknob right quick, just kind of show that. So just kind of pretend that this is the pull right here. Grab onto that, and then do the same thing. Take a breath in, exhale, slowly lower your body down while holding onto this. If this was an actual pull, I'd probably be grabbing down here right now, because it can really work on your ankle flexibility and pull yourself forward. So just the more time that you can spend in that nice downward squat position, the better off you'll be. Because I mean, excuse me, I'm a little out of breath, but I've been working out. So the more time that you can spend in that squat position, the better off you'll be. Because really, how often do we spend in that position in our normal day-to-day life? That's why we lose that natural ability, because we're just not doing it. Okay, so let's go back to the slide so you guys don't see me sweat too much. Okay, so just to reiterate, we self-myofascial released, we stretched the angry muscle, we activated the sleeping muscle, and then we integrated it all so that all our muscle groups are working together. Now, we mostly focus on the hip flexor because, like I said, that's usually the most problematic muscle group from sitting. And we all sit if we're American, so that's the focus. But, of course, there can be other muscular causes. We can have tight adductors, which are these inner muscle groups in your inner thigh. They're the muscles that bring your leg back to the midline. Those can also get angry, and I'll show you a few stretches for that. And foam rolling as well, because we really should be foam rolling our body just from our day-to-day activities. So we got the tight adductors, tight calves, which is very apparent in this picture right here. In A, everything's in normal alignment, but in B, you can see that the tight calves are pulling everything into that anterior pelvic tilt as well. And it also plays a part in just being able to go down into the squat. If you don't have proper ankle flexibility, it's going to instantly feel like you run into a wall when you go down into the squat, and you're just going to fall backwards. Along with that, you'll get a tight IT band and tensor fasciae latae, which is this group right here. And the IT band is a very strong muscle. Well, it's not even a muscle, but it's just a very strong fibrous piece of your body. So it can get very tight, and it's a very painful area to foam roll, and I'll show that to you as well. Tight and inactive hamstrings, which we were trying to utilize while doing the back bridges, and then inactive long erector spinae, which are, you can't see in this picture right here, but they run along your spine right here and right here, and those are going to become very inactive. And I'll show you a couple of exercises that you can do for that. Okay. So I'm going to cut back to myself and show you how to foam roll these other muscle groups. Okay. All right. Okay. So before I even get into that, one other thing that I kind of wanted to point out was with tight ankles and calves. One way that you can simply test to see if that's true is do a regular squat. So just go down to a regular squat. Then take some plates or anything that you can find to elevate your heel. Put those behind you, right onto your heel, and then try to go down for a squat. And you'll notice if you have tight ankles and calves, it'll be so much easier to get down into that deep squat. So watch this. Look how much lower I can get instantly just by doing that. So that instantly shows that I have tight calves, but I already knew that. That's something that I was working on. So that's a simple test that you can do at home to see if you actually do have tight calves. And if so, from there, you get the foam roller, put it on the ground. If it's too painful, you can put both out at the same time and roll them out. But what I like to do is you get one, take the other leg, cross it over, raise up the hips, and slowly start moving up your calf. And like I said, when I normally like to foam roll, I like to kind of do the whole thing, kind of thinking of it as a Swedish massage, and then start slowly hunting for those spots, and once you find them, rest for about 30 seconds, and then that's your deep tissue massage. Okay, so you do your calves like that. Okay, in this case, we'll move up to our hamstrings. So from here, you just bring the foam roller up, and then you move up and down like that. So I'm going a little quicker than you should be going. You should be going nice and slow. But I just kind of want to show you the different groups and how to do that. So here I'm doing my other hamstring right now. And I showed you how to do the quad group earlier when we were doing the rectus femoris. So now we're going to move on to the IT band and our TFL, which is right here. So for that, simply get on your side, pop a leg over if that's too much pressure to distribute your weight. And same thing with that, you'll move up and down there from the knee all the way up to the hip. Okay? But what I like to do, since that's not enough pressure for me to get out what I need, I put it up like this, and then I go to work. Okay, I already showed you the quad, which was this. And then to get our adductors, take the foam roller, bring your leg out to the side, and then do the same thing with that. Going all the way from the inner groin, all the way to your knee. You can also do your glute, which in this case is probably not tight, but you know, I might as well show you while we're here. So to do that, you would simply sit on it, cross your leg over so that it really isolates this part of your body, and then you lean onto that side. Okay. Another thing that can get real tight is our lats, which actually kind of do tie into our lower back. So to do that one, put this out here, get on your side, start at your armpit, have the hand out, thumb facing up, start at the armpit, and then you'll foam roll right here because your lat actually is right here, and it goes all the way to the back of it. You can get a good chunk of it right here. So you'll foam roll that. I'm going to do the other side, I'll show you from this angle. That. If you really want to work on your back, there's two different muscle groups that you can hit, depending on how you put your arms. You can put them behind your head like so, and get it like this. Same thing with this, you kind of want to move slowly, but I'm just trying to show you the different areas. And then to really hit some stuff like that, you grab one shoulder, grab the other shoulder, and then you can start hitting different parts of your back in that position as well. Another thing, like I said, tight calves can be a major issue with doing the squat. A lot of people forget that we have muscles in our feet too. So for that, you can simply take a tennis ball. In this case, I'm going to be using a bouncy ball or a cross ball you can use. Just put that on the floor, and then this is really painful too because most of the time we negate this part of our body. So you just put that on the floor, start rolling around till you find a nice angry spot, and just kind of sit on that. Nice breath in, nice breath out, until that knot releases itself. So I kind of showed you how to foam roll your whole body. So now let me show you how to stretch different parts of that. So adductors, these are your inner muscles right here. These are the muscles that, when I'm out here, allow me to bring my leg back in. So if it allows you to bring your leg back in, this is when it's contracting. How do we stretch it when it's out like this way? So there's several different ways you can do it. You can do it like this, where my toes are both pointing straight ahead. Take a nice wide lunge. Make sure your torso is nice and upright. One thing with this, I think about tucking my pelvis in because I do have that anterior pelvic toe. And when I do that, you feel that nice tightness right in there. Okay? So this one I don't get too much out of. So what I like to do, this is called Warrior 2, and this is a yoga pose. So ankle to ankle, so my feet are perpendicular right now. I drive this front knee forward, keeping my torso nice and upright. And then from here, you can bring your arms up. And then this really starts opening up a lot of different parts of your body. I'm getting a nice stretch right here on my chest, while I'm also stretching this as well. Same thing with that, nice conscious breaths. Okay. Calf stretch, once you massage your feet and you foam roll your calves out, simply get in this position, make sure your pelvis is in that perfect position, and then you push off the ground. So this stretches one part of your calf. There's two muscle groups in your calf. You got the soleus and the gastrocnemius. So to stretch that other part, you start bending at the knee while in this position, and then I'll start hitting a different muscle group right there. And this really targets your heel cord as well. So like I said, one of the major issues when you do try to go down the squat is this ankle flexibility. So that'll really help out with that. What was the other thing that needed to be stretched? Oh yeah, TFL. That's a little bit harder to stretch, but a simple way you can do that while standing, cross the legs over. Whichever leg's in the back is going to be the one that you stretch. So I cross my legs over, start bending forward, and you'll start feeling a nice stretch right there. One other concept I kind of want to show you as far as our hip flexor goes, to kind of think about it. So like I said, it's deep in our abdominals right here. Connects at your femur, and then connects all the way to your lower back right here. So it's kind of hard to, visualize this. So try to think of it as like your bicep. So your bicep helps to flex the elbow up, just in the same way that this hip flexor in here helps to raise this up. So it's very similar right now. So think of my bicep as this hip flexor. So try to think about if all day while you're sitting, you're in this position. So think about your bicep is always in this flex position. Don't you think it would be getting kind of angry that you need to stretch it out so that everything is in proper functional working condition? So I showed you that. And then I kind of want to show you a couple other stretches that maybe you haven't thought about. So since with sitting, everything's rolling forward. We're always hunched over. We're on our phones. We're on our laptops. We're driving. Our shoulders are rolled forward. Everything's rolled forward. So we really want to try to open up the body. So a good exercise for that is called prone cobra. So for that, lay on the ground. Like so. Your back's all in alignment. And then simply from this, what you're going to do is you're going to lift your chest up and try to bring your thumbs to the ceiling. So I'm retracting my shoulder blades together. This really works on your scapular retractors, opening those up because usually those muscle groups are very weak. And I'm opening up my chest. And I'm working on those erector spinae muscles that are also very weak and turn off when we sleep, or when we sit. So you want to do that. Hold for a couple of seconds, relax, come back up, and try to do that for about 10 to 15 reps. So I just showed you several different exercises that you can do to try to work against this. So you got the ball squats, you got the hip bridges, and you have the prone cobras. So you can make a nice corrective exercise routine out of those three exercises. Do 10 to 15 of each one um, in as one set, and then repeat that 3 more times. One of my other favorite stretches that I'll show you is called the founder stretch. Because like I said, when we sit, we're basically turning off our whole posterior chain off, basically all these muscle groups in the back of our body. So this stretch actually works on all that. It strengthens those while also working on the flexibility of that and just turning on all those muscle groups together to work together. So if you want to look more into this, it's called the founder stretch. The guy who invented it was a chiropractor named Dr. Eric Goodman. So if you want to look into that. So for that one, put your feet parallel together. The secret is put all the weight on your heels. Push the hips back. So I'm loading up the hamstrings, my butt's turning on. And then like the same thing in the prone cobra, open up the hands. So I'm opening up the chest, which is usually in the closed position. My posterior chain is turned on. A lot of tension in these erector spinae right now. From here, bring it arms forward. Even more tension in the erector spine. Keep pushing through the heels. That's really a secret. You can see I can bring my toes up. And then from here, at this hip hinge right here, you dump forward. Keep pressing through the heels. And then this really loads up the hamstrings. Okay? So for that one, you want to hold each position anywhere from 10 to 30 seconds, pretty much anything that's comfortable for you. So yeah, I mean, I just showed you a bunch of different self-myofascial techniques that you can do to work on your body, some exercises that you can do, and let's see here. Let's go back to the screen share. Okay. So yeah, I showed you how to stretch your psoas major, the iliacus, the adductors, the TFL, the calves. We kind of covered all that. So I guess that leaves us for the question or comments.
Yeah, one question I have is, in your opinion, as far as like driving versus just sitting at a desk, which one is worse for this type of situation to have your pelvic tilt, the Donald Duck syndrome, as you called it?
I kind of had a hard time hearing that. Were you asking if driving or sitting at a desk was worse for the Donald Duck syndrome?
Right. Would you say driving or sitting at a desk? Which one's worse?
I would say both are horrible for us, but I would say driving is actually worse because you have less freedom to easily move about. And actually, I kind of noticed with my gas pedal foot, so my right calf is actually the calf that I have a lot of trouble with. It'll spaz out on me a lot because when you're putting your foot on the gas pedal, it's in an awkward flexion position constantly, you know, depending on however long you're driving. So I would say driving is probably worse just for your overall body. But I mean, both are really bad as far as that anterior pelvic tilt because you're in that sitting position. And when you're in that sitting position, your hip flexors are, you know, just like I said with your bicep, it's kind of in that shortened position for an extended period of time. Your butt's turned off. And that's just not how we were designed to be. So.
Okay, and is there anything you can do? You're still showing us your screen right now, but is there anything you can do while you're sitting that makes you be able to improve it? You know, I know you need to do the exercises in the evening or when you get home, but while you're actually sitting in a chair, what can you do to try to improve?
Yeah, so when I'm sitting in a chair, I actually try to think about tucking my pelvis under. And you'll kind of notice as soon as you start tucking the pelvis under, you kind of start sitting more upright. I don't know if you can kind of feel, you'll even feel kind of tightness in those hip flexors, like especially in the quad area, because you're kind of fighting against that right now. Um, so I mean, the best thing is really to just kind of get up and take little mini breaks in between, where you're kind of, either doing a body squats or lunges, something that's just kind of taking that hip flexor through that range of motion that it naturally wants to be in, instead of in that static sitting position when it's short and it can relax essentially. Another thing that you can do is, I don't have a back on this. I'm sitting on that exercise ball right now. But if you have a back on a chair, try to lean back into that the rest, and that'll kind of open up your chest. It can't really work on that lower half, on that anterior pelvic tilt, because the sitting position is what is causing that anterior pelvic tilt. But you can work on actually opening up the upper body by kind of just putting your arms back or behind your head and leaning back.
One question that I had, do you have any words of advice for someone who is new to myofascial release or foam rolling, as far as like the amount of time to spend on each muscle group? And then also, I think people are really caught by surprise when they start foam rolling of how painful it can be. And of course, their response, their first response is, how can this be beneficial?
Mm-hmm.
But it is.
Yeah, well, the way I like to think of that is, I'd rather take a little bit of pain right then and there than wait for it to build up all one day where you get injured and then you really got, a mess on your hands. So I'd rather, kind of release that tension by choice, even though it's a little bit painful, but it's my choice to release that tension slowly, instead of just letting it build up over time, and then you actually have a very serious injury on your hands, because it's way easier to be preventative than it is to work with once you have an injury. So as far as time, that's why I was trying to show that you can kind of distribute your weight in different ways by either propping a foot up or not crossing your legs or something like that. But yeah, it is going to be painful. So they make softer type foam rollers if that's something that's super painful. It's just something you got to kind of get over. Is really what it comes down to. Because like I said, I think it's better that you release that tension by your own choice than to one day just have that injury. I set a timer where I try to do 1 minute on each muscle group. So I'll literally set a timer, and it's like, okay, I gotta spend 1 minute on this muscle group. Because otherwise, if I don't do that, it's like, like your clients say, wow, this is painful, I want to stop doing this. So I think if you set a timer and you actually see that you have to spend that amount of time, that mentally that seems to help, at least for myself, to go through the pain. I also like chant in my head, but but I'm sure that might be something that some people might not be into. So just something that you can distract yourself. Maybe watch TV, listen to music. I found that listening to music while foam rolling seems to kind of turn my mind off from the pain. So just deep conscious breathing. Just try to relax that muscle group, and just have that timer set so that okay, this is what I'm going to do, and this is what my body needs. That's I think how you should think of it. It's like, this is what you need for yourself. So
I have a kind of a follow-up question. So many people, myself included, are focused on strength training and even cardio.
mm-hmm.
What kind of balance would you say that flexibility needs to have, or I guess as you call it, just stretching out the muscles, elongating the muscles, getting them to stop being angry?
Yeah.
In balance to the cardio and the strength training.
Yeah, well, they should all complement one another, because when you're strength training, you're causing little micro tears in your muscle, and when you go to sleep, your body repairs those muscle tears to be stronger. Um, so it's very I recommend that you do it before a workout. Not too long, but just to kind of get all those knots out so that all the muscle fibers are aligned, so that when you do the strength training, your body is in that fully functioning state, so that everything is working together. You're not creating a worse muscle imbalance when you're actually going to hit the weights. Um, and then after a workout, you should absolutely be foam rolling. Um, just because, like I said, you're tearing down the muscle group, so you actually want to get those knots out after you work out, and then stretch right after you foam roll. Because when you tense your muscle up, you're causing it to shorten. So we want to try to get it back to its normal resting state, and by foam rolling, you help to create that. Um, so it should be part of your routine, and that was kind of part of the reason why I threw my back out when I was younger, because I was just lifting weights, not doing cardio, not foam rolling, and not stretching, and I paid the price for that. So you should really be doing all three combined.
Right. And then I guess my last question on that is, what would you recommend as far as the I just bring up time because I know duration of something is a common question. At the end of the workout, how long would you think or you suggest to hold the each stretch?
Oh, so for each stretch, you want to hold for a minimum of 30 seconds, at least 30 seconds. And I mean, I don't know if this is scientifically backed, but I like to hold it up to 2 minutes if possible, because it seems that once I get up to that 2 minute level of doing a stretch and then I come out of that stretch, my body is just so much looser because you know, we usually aren't stretching our bodies. We're usually in this, very tight positioning. So the more time that you can spend stretching, the better. But that's of course unless you have an underactive and long muscle, then you don't want to be stretching that. But then that's a whole other issue, right then in itself. So, but if you're working a muscle group in a workout, you want to be stretching that muscle group at the end of the workout. I think that's a good model to follow.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people I think is it's just the fact that we're in a hurry, and if you're
Mm-hmm.
having to, everybody's short on time, and so uh, it is important to actually allot, 5 or at least 10 minutes if you can, to actually do the stretching because that is, like you said, it's not only is it good for just stretching the muscles, but it's good for, like you said, recovery and repair and all that good stuff.
And then
So
on top of that, I think mentally it's a good thing to do, because if you're holding all that tension in your muscle, it kind of makes you neurotic. You can't breathe properly. It If your body's loose, your mind's going to be loose. Is kind of how I like to think of it. I mean, it's just like if in fact, I noticed this right before this webinar. I got kind of a little nervous. I started getting neck tension. I'm sure my shoulders were rising. So it's just good to always be stretching. I mean, just to be loose, to be limber, to express your body with whatever emotion you want to be able to express at that time. And you can't do that if you're tight and rigid.
right, all right. Let's see, we're getting close to the time. Any other questions that you may have, or anything in addition that you may have that you want to add early on?
Um, I mean, I would just add that, like you said, we're always in a rush. I think we should dedicate 10 minutes to stretching, just to, set an alarm. It's like, okay, this is my time where I get to take care of myself. Because, I mean, we're always running around, using our energy, doing errands, or, expending it for other people. It's okay to be selfish for 10 minutes and work on ourselves, because by doing that, we're going to be in a better mood. We're going to be in less pain, and it'll just affect our overall mood and just ability to enjoy life.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Yeah, well, good deal. Trey, if you would, go ahead and pull that beginning of your presentation up. That way people can see your information, and then
Sure.
our website too, just so they can kind of reach out to us. I'm really excited that we've started doing this. I mean, there's a lot of directions that we can go in the future, but to me, I like really showing the nerdy side of us. That we can really help a lot of people. And yeah, so anybody watching this, definitely hit us up on Facebook, HomeFit Consulting. Send us some questions, things that you may want us to cover, and we got a solid team, and I love the fact that Trey is one of us that is a very holistic trainer, takes pride in that, and so definitely wanted to showcase him tonight. So, all right, if there's nothing else, what I'll do, I'll kind of, I guess I'll mute mine just enough so Trey can kind of kick the screen back over to his, and then I guess we'll call it quits after that. All right, thanks, guys.
All right, well, thanks for joining. And if any of these topics were of interest to you, you can go to check out my blog, my personal blog, personaltrainer.com. I have a little bit more in-depth information with this, and of course, visit homefitconsulting.com so that you can take advantage of myself and the other personal trainers and fitness coaches that we have. And thank you.